Hi everyone, Sarah Uranus, Amara here, and today we're going to talk about, interweb bullying and how it happened to Duane and how it maybe still happens to others. Now I know there's going to be a lot of folks who are going to say that when you put yourself out there on the interweb you're going to get hate. But then again, one could say the same thing about putting yourself out there in true life. You're going to get hate too, and bullied. Now, that goes without being said, that might be a shift off for anyone as far as being on the interwebs go. But how do you handle it when it happens in true life? Because it does happen in true life. At the homestead, the workstead, the learnstead, anywhere where bullying can be done, sadly, it can be done. And on the interweb. Now, there were a lot of folks out there, don't know their names, don't know their back sagas, don't know what was going on in their life at the time, but starting from 2008 YL till 3 between FYL, or third between FYL, how do you say that? And the hate started with first just writing, mean things on the films and on the fairways where it starts. Yeah, well, that was the beginning of it. And keep in mind, Duane never said or did anything to these folks, so keep that there. Well, as years went on, it just kept being an everyday thing. And at first, they would make up things because they didn't really know anything about him beyond what he put out there, which wasn't as much to work with. And I know there's going to be folks out there who might think, oh, well, you may have been doing or saying something that gave them something to work with. The only thing it gave them to work with was, Sailor Moon dolls on the interweb. Like that's a bad thing. I mean, it wasn't like we were the only ones doing it. I mean, you had Mario, you had Sonic, you had SpongeBob, you had Mickey Mouse, you had sundry others. So it wasn't like that he came along and did something no one was doing before. And the haters would say that he was lazy, because he didn't work full time or half time like they did. Lazy would be Duane's middle name. But they didn't know anything about him, so they made that up. And then they started coming up with this belief that Duane was a bad slay on the interwebs, and that they had to stand up to what they felt was the bad slay on the interweb. What? Making films with Sailor Moon dolls? That was the bad slay on the interweb? Not the interweb bullying that these folks were doing? And any time that Duane stood up to these bullies, which you do have the right to do, the bullies like to flip everything and say that they like to, gaslight him, or ghostlight him as I'll call it, where they guilted everything on him. They flipped everything, made themselves out to be the bullied and the beaten, made him out to be the bullied and the beater, if that isn't an English word, which I guess it is. But that wasn't true, but that's what they like to do. And then when that didn't work, and when all the hated, evil, wicked things they would write, and when those things on the films and on the fairway wasn't good enough for them, because they get bored, folks get bored of one kind of bullying, they offshoot to mean film answers, which was something you could do on YouTube for a long time. I mean, you could still do it. You just can't, hook it up with someone else's upload. And then when that didn't work, came the fake flagging. Now you might ask yourself, what about block? Was that tool in the past? Believe it or not, that toll has been on YouTube or UA since 2008 2005 YL, but it doesn't do what you think it does. All it does was block someone from following you, block someone from writing on your films or on your fairway, but they could still watch your films, they could still flag your films, they could still thumb down your films or up your films. So no, the setting was the setting that we got back in the day was clutter. It didn't do nothing. And then came the hacking, and that happened in 2010 YL. And after that, followed by the fake flagging, because now they felt that he didn't have the right to be on the interwebs. And they thought if they fake flagged enough times and UA believed them, because we have lost some of our fairways to fake flagging in the past, they thought that that would run them off. But no, Duane came back with every time the fake flagging would happen, Duane would come back. And then Duane learned that there was only one way, there was many ways to stop bullying, but he had to figure what would work for him. And that's when he chose not to talk to them. You know, not to watch their films, not to read the evil, wicked, hateful things they were writing down, take it off their films. You know, hush them, lock them, and forbid them from coming to his fairway again. Now I know for some folks that's hard for them to do, and everyone has their own oversight when it comes to dealing with bullying. Some folks might think that, oh, so you're guilting yourself. No, I'm not guilting anyone or shaming anyone who's bullied, because I was bullied in the past on the interweb. I'm just telling you what I did. I chose not to talk to them. I chose not to watch their films. I chose to clean everything off their films and hush and lock them and forbid them from coming to my fairway ever again. You know, I chose to forget them. Now, what someone else chooses to do, that's their own business, you know. And yes, and one little other thing I need to leave you with before I end this film. You know, interweb bullies like to behave as if they're grown up. So if you do block them or hush them or forbid them to come to your fairway, they'll say, oh, well, grown-ups don't hush and lock and forbid others from coming on their fairway. Well, grown-ups do not bully. They don't interweb bully. Hell, they don't do bullying at all. If you think of bullying and picking on someone, well, you think that, oh, you're thinking walkers, kids, betweeners. Grown-ups. Well, guess what? Grown-ups are as guilty of bullying folks as walkers, kids, and betweeners. And I don't really care how old someone is. Sadly, anyone can be slayed to... Lucifer can slay anyone into bullying at any time in their life. And, yes, grown-ups do hush, block, and forbid. They do not bully or guilt or shame the one being bullied or beaten. Alright? So anyway, that's just talking about how Duane dealt with interweb bullying, or whatever you want to call it, from 2008 YL to 2003 third betweeneth YL. Sailor Uranus, Sailor Skyworld Amara, and I'll see you later. Goodbye. Farewell. So long.